Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that Moscow wants to put an end to the war in Ukraine, and the sooner it happens, the better. Putin said ending the war would inevitably involve a diplomatic solution. The comments from the Russian president came a day after Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky visited the United States, where he met Joe Biden and addressed the Congress.
Наша цель не раскручивать этот маховик военного конфликта, а наоборот закончить эту войну. Мы к этому стремимся и будем стремиться.
This is not the first time that Russia has talked about being open to negotiations, but Ukraine and its allies suspect a ploy to buy time after a series of Russian defeats and retreats that have swung the momentum of the 10-month war in favor of Kyiv. Responding to Putin's comments, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said Moscow has shown no real interest in ending the war in Ukraine.
Fundamentally, right now, Russia has shown no interest in meaningful diplomacy, in meaningfully engaging to bring this war to an end.
At the same time, Putin tried to play down the significance of the Patriot air defense system that the United States has agreed to supply to Zelensky. Putin described the Patriot air defense as outdated, adding the Russian military knows how to counter them. The Russian president said the deliveries of Patriot systems will only extend the fighting in Ukraine.
А что касается патриотов, это достаточно старая система, и она не работает, так скажем, как наша С-300. Но, тем не менее, ведь те, кто нам противостоит, исходят из того, что это якобы оборонительное оружие. Ну, ладно. Мы просто будем иметь это в виду, и противоядие всегда найдется. Так что те, кто это делают это зря. Это просто затягивание конфликта. Вот и все.
Since Russia invaded Ukraine in February this year, Moscow has maintained that it is Kyiv that is refusing to talk. However, Ukraine has said Russia must halt its attacks and give up all the territory it has seized. Lieutenant Colonel Daniel L. Davis, a senior fellow and a military expert for defense priorities, is joining us live from Virginia. Daniel, good to see you and welcome to the broadcast. So Putin is talking about diplomacy and willingness by Moscow to end the war. Is it to be believed? Because Washington doesn't believe the Kremlin at all.
Well, you have to take a very careful look at the comments in context, both with what Putin is saying now, what he said really since March of this year, and what other of his leaders are saying today, or on the same day that he made those comments. And that is that Putin is wanting to have a negotiated settlement on terms favorable to Moscow, just like Zelensky's, came to Washington and said that he wants to have a peace deal, but that's almost entirely requiring Russia to completely surrender and leave all of his territory. And of course, neither of those things are going to happen. And so when Putin said that he wants this to be over as soon as possible, I think if you look at the Russian language, I think what he said was he wants it to finish it soon. And then his chief of staff, Gerasimov, said later in the day that they still are absolutely intending to completely liberate the entire Donbass, and that is their next winter offensive. That's what he said today.
Right.
So in context, Putin is saying he wants a negotiated settlement on terms favoring Moscow after he's taken this territory there, and expects that have a negotiated settlement afterwards, but not until he's attained his military objectives, just like Zelensky wants to attain his before he talks about negotiations.
Daniel, Ukraine and its allies are suspecting a ploy to buy time after a series of Russian defeats or even retreats. What does Putin's statement mean at this point of time, and what impact will it have on the war?
Well, I mean, you've had the Zelensky, the commander of the Ukrainian armed forces, as well as Zelensky this past week in the Economist and in the Guardian in the UK, are both very clear that they're saying they expect a Russian winter offensive, and they understand that this mobilization has produced hundreds of thousands of additional fighters. So I think they're very clear-eyed on what's coming, and they don't think that Russia is in a retreat anymore. And both the Russians and the Ukrainians both agree that the front has basically stabilized since Ukraine's successes in the Kharkiv area in the north and in the Kherson area in the south from August through basically November. Those are stabilized now, and the next play is going to be how much power can Russia bring to bear in a winter offensive, as many of the Ukrainian officials expect.
Colonel Daniel, stay with me. Would want to talk about a different and pertinent issue with you. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.